Hey, good evening, everybody.
Here we are.
How are you?
Captain Mike, Captain Sergio. I'm back. Yep. We're
Back and
all
ready to
having a lot of
roll.
fun.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Yep. Here we go.
See
Well,
who's
I'll
going
tell
to
you what,
show up
guys.
today.
I've had a real good time fishing. Last week, God, we had beautiful weather for 3 days, almost flat calm, foggy but beautiful.
Hmm.
Grouper bite in Tampa Bay has been on fire. I mean, fire. I, I haven't seen it this good in years.
Yeah,
Let's see what, and actually, I think it's going to get better with the cold weather.
probably. Yeah, the grouper bite out here in Crystal River has picked up tremendously. We've got one of our captains, Vince. He's been going out quite a bit and doing very, very well, especially on soft plastics. So, got a lot of grouper in the shallows, and it's just going to get better as the winter progresses.
So
So,
let's hope it works out, you know.
hmm,
And
yeah,
I'm looking at it at the weather today, you know, and I said, yeah, we got this cold blast coming in for Friday, and then another one on Sunday for Monday.
hmm,
But if it drops down like you and I were talking, if the Tampa Bay temperature drops in in the middle of the bay by 10 degrees, because it was only 67 last
right,
week. I
yeah.
thought it was good. It was 76 inside Tampa Bay in the
Hmm.
shallows.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it's definitely warmed up. I mean, it's more like a springtime water temperature out there right now, but it's going to change drastically for next week. And I've got some charters going out next week. I don't have anything this week, which I'm not complaining too bad. I'm sure something may pop up, but I don't mind not being out there when it's this cold.
oh, let me tell you,
I'm okay.
when we were up there in Stanahatchee, I had my gloves, and of course, you know, the fingers are cut off, my
Hmm.
fishing gloves. They they felt like needles. I had to actually just stick my hands in my pocket for a while. I
You
couldn't
know,
stand the pain. It was that bad.
you didn't bring any hot pockets with you? I bring hot pockets all the
Oh,
time.
Ron usually brings hot pockets, and he forgot to
Yeah.
do it.
Oh,
You know,
yeah. That's almost a necessity right there.
all right, we got Alejandro
Alejandro.
watching. All right. Yep, everybody's doing good. We're talking about Stanahatchee, but the trout fishing. eh, I got to tell you the story. How funny things are. That Monday, just ahead of the cold front, in the morning till about 11 o'clock, we were catching trout, big trout, on
Hmm.
artificials. Then the rain came, so we had to put everything away, and you know everything kind of died down. The other boat that was out there went in. Tuesday we go out after the front, same area.
Hmm.
Couldn't get a trout hardly to ever bite, but we were catching one rat red after the other,
Oh yeah.
and the same flats with
Hmm.
artificials. I mean,
Yeah.
we hit one spot that every time you threw, you either had one or you got a hit on artificials.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. It looked like the little rat reds just kind of came in after the trout, or I guarantee the trout were probably there. They just kind of were hunkering down, kind of getting acclimated. But those little rat reds, they seem to not mind too much with that cold weather, because we'll catch a lot of them here as well. They'll just kind of show up and be in big schools of them, and maybe they stick together for warmth. Who knows?
When we came in on Monday, we went over to one of the marinas, and one of the it's like a 32-foot boat. I guess he goes way offshore. Had like 5 or 6 people on the boat. It's a big catamaran. Maybe
Hmm.
there was 5 or 6. Man, he had some big red snapper because
Yeah.
that was the last weekend for red snapper,
Right.
and he did. He had everybody caught their limit of big red snapper, and they had
Nice.
some nice red grouper and everything else. So that captain did a good job for him.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah, we went out a couple times out looking for sheep's head out in the fog. There were some walls of fog out there, pretty thick. But we went out looking for sheep's head, and we found a few. But we did catch a couple grouper out there as well. The one thing I noticed that we're not catching out there, which we normally do, is mangrove snapper.
I only caught the last 4 trips. I think it's two mango snapper small, and actually, and no sheephead. which I
Hmm.
thought I should have caught a few where I was at because it's a good rocky bottom. I
Hmm.
just don't think, like I said, like we were talking, I don't think the water temperature's gotten cold enough for that to
Oh,
happen.
really?
Yeah.
Well, there's a working theory, and again, I don't know how true this is, but we'll sit there and talk about it because normally at this time of year we'll do pretty good on some mangrove snapper, especially on the rocks that are a little shallower. You'll get your grunts, you'll get your snapper and stuff. But a theory is possibly because we are not catching the grouper, the restrictions on the grouper, that these grouper are eating. We're not out there feeding them, giving them pinfish, giving them, cut baits, whatever else. Theory is because the grouper are not being sought after, they're going after the mangrove snapper and the grunts that you would normally catch on these rocks. And again, it's just a theory, it's a possibility, but that's kind of what we're thinking is that the reason why you're not finding these mangrove snapper on these reefs is because the grouper have moved in. They're not being pressured, and they're eating all the rest of the product, the catch that you usually get on these rocks.
I'm catching a lot of grunts, and I
Yeah.
even tried cutting a grunt up and using it for bait,
Hmm.
and I couldn't get a bite.
No.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
But but again, each area is a little different. I
Hmm.
just don't think they've come in.
Yeah.
Now I
And
know
that may
there's
be a
some around the,
possibility.
the docks. There is some around the docks,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, we still have them in our little springs. I've got a nice little secret spot that I've got that, I'll catch some decent mangrove snappers still, but it's the spring and it's a little more, susceptible to always have holding those mangroves. But um, I'm just curious because out on these shallow rocks and the grouper, we don't really see a whole lot of grouper there in those places. Of course, we're not really targeted targeting them at that point, but we're just not seeing those mangrove snapper like we're used to at this time of year. And it could be just the warmer weather as well. They just haven't pushed in, but not sure.
I and as I look, I mean, I don't know how the inshore fishing is to be honest with you because I going in and out like Wheaton Island and stuff. The last three times I went out, I think I saw one boat around Wheaton Island. Of course, we've had low tides, outgoing tides, so there hasn't been a lot of water down there. We've
Yeah.
had some negative tides, which when you're out in the middle of around the ship's channel, it don't matter what kind of tide you got. Now,
Right.
you want a slower running tide. I did notice that at the about an hour after the outgoing or incoming, the tide starts to slow down a little.
Hmm.
And it looks like, especially on the outgoing, I've done very good the last hour and a half hour of the outgoing. That seems to be
Right.
the best bite.
Yeah.
I think it's the slowest. And you could tell because you're catching some grunts, you get a small grouper once in a while. That tide slows down, man, we start getting whacked. And I
Hmm.
mean, we're losing 4 and 5 fish that we can't stop.
Right. Yeah, and I would say that's the same for the sheepshead as well. Because when we were out there looking for sheepshead, we did catch a few here and there. But again, we're just kind of testing the waters because they're not really in just yet. But we're trying to get ahead of it so we know exactly when they're here, when we're going to go for them, so we can start booking clients for it. But we did notice that as the tide was slower, the bite increased. As the tide picked up, 3, 4 knots or something like that, the bite just kind of died. Um, and we were still getting bites, but they were so light, even in the low tide, the slow tide, the bites were so light, you really had to pay attention to hook them up. And then when that tide moving as fast as it was, you could still feel the bites, but by the time you reacted, it was over. So we definitely got a better bite in the slack tides time.
And I noticed that now. The way I'm learning this a little bit more because I quit doing that grouper fishing stuff in the bay. I'm looking at my trolling motor on my
Hmm.
power pole trolling motor, and I got a big readout. It tells me, what speed it's at when you hit
Hmm.
the uh, the anchor lock, and if it's at 9 or 8, I ain't getting no bites for big grouper. I notice that when it gets down to 7,
Mm-hmm.
and then when it hits 6 and 5, because that means that the tide is slowed down, it don't have to pull as hard. That's when all the
Right.
grouper bite turns on. So both days I told the guys, when you see that number drop from 9 to 8, when it hits 7, when it gets 7 to 6, I said, watch the grouper turn on. And sure as shooting, as soon as that we hit about 6 on that speed, man, we started getting the big grouper bites again.
Oh, well,
So
that's a good way to
I
figure
guess my
that one
trolling
out.
motor's starting to tell me now
Yeah, that's that's
what the
that's
bite's going to
that's
be
a
like.
pretty neat observation there. That's
Yeah.
yeah, that's especially if you got your trolling motor that can tell you the speeds. That's something
Well,
to know.
with the new power pole, you got the thing on the dash
Mm-hmm.
that tells you I liked it because it tells you if you got a satellite connection, it tells you if your prop is turning, and then it's also got a light and the speed that at what number you're at.
Right.
So it when I get into the current, it's about 9. And then I notice the current slows down, it gets down to 8. Then it gets down to 7. When it gets down to 7, I start getting ready because I know those group are going to get ready to turn on, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so again, it's sometimes it's just the right amount of speed, right amount of tide, and especially in the shallows now, doing the trout and the redfish, they're not biting even in the river with that same tide. When the tide is really pushing hard, the bite stops. When it slows down, the bite picks up. So I think that's a pattern that has started to happen recently. Now, again, all that pattern may completely change, and we got these cold fronts coming through. But I would assume it's probably going to be the same thing because I think it's more of a temperature thing. You get a lot of cold air, cold water being pushed across. They're probably just kind of settling down, waiting for that to slow down, feed for about an hour or two, and then wait for the tide to slow down again. Um, it's quite big possibility. That's the new pattern for
I
for
know that
catching
on the
fish.
ship's channel, man, that current can get pretty strong.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I can understand that. But it's
Hmm.
funny, grunts being such a much smaller species, they bite. They go crazy.
Oh
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
And,
Certain
and I
certain ones
learned that,
will.
hey, you can go bankrupt with shrimp. I just take 2 pounds of squid and a 5 pound box of Spanish sardine, and that seems to last me through a whole charter.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Now, if I get lucky, like about 3 weeks ago, we caught 2 squirrelfish. Oh
Oh,
my
there you
God, my not whole. I just cut them in half,
go. Hmm.
and all 4 pieces. We got whacked so hard.
Yeah, and we talked about that when we were out. We went exploring. We went a little farther out than we went about 20 miles out that day. Just looking at some GPS points that we've had um, on our charts that we really hadn't explored. We were out 13 miles. We thought, well, let's go 7 more and see what's out there. Wasn't sure what it was. It said nice hard bottom, live bottom. And so we went out there fishing, and all we caught was squirrelfish, 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 squirrelfish.
Man,
Well,
that's a good spot.
tell you what, that's going to be a good spot for grouper later on because that. And I was telling my friends that the best bait you could do for grouper, squirrelfish. They love
I don't
squirrelfish.
know why.
I don't know either.
It must be a scent or something. You think that maybe somebody can tell us why they love squirrelfish so bad.
Yeah, I don't know, but for me, squirrelfish is a bait that if I catch one, a bycatch, I'm putting it in a live well for a grouper and hang on because they nail those things so hard. It's just odd. But now I've got a very big area of a bunch of live bottom in it. There's nothing really spectacular about it. Just a little bit of humps here and there, but it's live bottom. You see a little coral here and there, but the squirrelfish are everywhere. Well, that tells me probably in the summertime, especially here at Crystal River, 20 miles out, summertime, that's probably a good area to start trolling or start dropping some baits down there. Catch a few squirrelfish, throw that squirrelfish right back down there, and I guarantee you're probably going to get some grouper. So, yeah, catch those squirrelfish, use them.
Oh yeah.
Don't throw them away. They're
Now,
not a they're not a bad catch.
what about pinfish up there? Because there's none down here.
We still have some pinfish. We were fishing Friday, just kind of floating the flats out there. Unfortunately, we're trying to get out there with the right tide, but we had an east wind and it just blew the water out on us. So we were kind of floating across the flats looking for some trout, and we were still catching some pinfish. They weren't a ton of them, but there's definitely still pinfish out there on the flats. So if you had a trap out there, I would say it's probably going to take a couple days soak to get it full. Not like a summertime where it only takes an hour. But I would probably put it in about 4 to 5 foot just because of the lower tides that we've got. And there's still pinfish out there. And the reds are still eating on these pinfish. So if you do happen to snag one, catch one, whatever, throw it in your box, use it for cut bait, because cut ladies, cut pins, and shrimp are still working for redfish right now.
Like I said, down here, I was talking to the Gandy Bait and Tackle, and he's just said, well, between the weather and the fog, the shrimpers from this area are not going out very far. And like I said, he had nothing but these little tiny, which were regulars. I call them midgets.
They
and
are.
he even told me, he says, I'm not even placing an order for tomorrow because he said, I'm not going to be able to sell these shrimp.
Yeah.
He said, I don't even want to sell them. They're so little. So I know I don't need any shrimp for tomorrow until they can start getting me some mediums and large.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate. That's great for you guys there that you guys actually have different sizes that you can pick from here in Crystal River. They give you what you got. So if you order 150, they're going to try to make it worth your while, but you're going to get at least 100 of these popcorn. I mean, worse than popcorn shrimp. They're just so small.
These were little.
They're kind of worthless, but
I mean, a one-out hook
here
would tear it in half. You had to go to like a number 2 hook, to make it work. Now, how many people you got on your Facebook screen?
On my Facebook, we mean as far as?
I mean, I only show Alejandro, but I'm showing there's a bunch of people watching.
Yeah, there's Donald, there's Josh.
On yours? See, I don't have it on mine. I don't know why.
Windy Day, Misty is on there.
I don't know why.
Alejandro is on there as well.
I don't know
and it's
why.
through the Facebook. So, and it is showing about 12 people watching through Facebook right now.
Yeah, I know, but I can't.
And it keeps fluctuating.
I'm just not getting it, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, YouTube doesn't. I don't know. I usually do it through the Facebook because it seems to be a little quicker. And
well, I'm doing it on Facebook, but I don't know.
Donald says, "Make gumbo with those little shrimp, man. You wouldn't even taste it. They're so small. Wouldn't even give you any flavor." Ken Burke is on there. Tim Richardson's on.
See,
hey guys,
I don't have none of those. I just got out of it.
Yeah.
Let me see if
They're definitely on here. They're making some comments. Sand perch, aka sand perch. Yeah, that's what some people call them. I had a guy on the boat from Wisconsin, and we caught a couple of those. He said, "Oh, those look like little perch that we catch up north." Well, yeah, they're close to it, but they're squirrelfish, also known as squirrelfish. Squirrelfish eat grouper eggs, Josh says, and that's why they hate them. Well, that makes sense. It's like salamanders to bass. So that's a good theory there. I'll have to research some of that. I love those little tidbits of information. But if they eat their eggs, I can see why they hate them. So
Ahota says, send me the link again because I lost it. On mine, I was only showing Alejandro, and that was it.
Oh yeah. No, I've got more people on here.
Yeah, no,
Go on.
I'm showing
Facebook.
a bunch of people, but they weren't showing up on my screen.
Go to the Florida West Coast Fishing Report on Facebook, the page, and then click it on there, and that's where I use.
Yeah.
And there's Jessica. Hey, Jessica. Where do you get those? Oh, hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, I know. Hook, line, and sinker, I will say, is a good little bait store. It's up there near Yankeetown, Inglis area. And they will give you selects. You do have to pay a little extra for them, which I wouldn't mind at all. So they will. We do have one store that will do it here, but unfortunately, the rest of the stores around town just don't do that, and it's a shame because they could actually make a little bit more money, and they could pressure their suppliers with bringing them in instead of selling them to the restaurants. But again, I don't know the business. Just a suggestion, not downplaying anything. I don't want any bad emails because my bait store that I usually use, Tees, they're great to me. They give me what I need, no problem. Hook, line, and sinker is about 20 minutes away from where I go. But yeah, they are a good store. Nice people there.
There we go. I opened it up
You get it?
under. Well, no, I'm trying to get it from Holta, but I'm just having a heck of a hard time.
Yeah.
Now I got it through this whatever Holta sent me. I got it now. I can see everybody on there, but
Okay, there you go.
yeah, but I wasn't getting anything.
No.
I don't know why.
Yeah. No, and I think unfortunately the shrimp, especially here, it's just going to depend on the weather. It's going to depend on the wind. If it gets really windy out there or really foggy, they don't really go out. So because they're going out at night most of the time, obviously. So I just don't know. This wind and cold tends to keep them in the dock.
He said the cold weather drives them deep into the ground.
And it does. It drives them deeper, and so and we don't have that deep of water. So wherever they move, they just kind of move, and it's not like they've got 12 days to get a whole big supply. They got one night to go out there and try to get them. So
but usually you see them
in,
what was it, July and August is when you see the small shrimp.
Yeah,
That's
just
the hatch.
because it's hot. Mm-hmm.
So this time of the year, normally I don't see real little shrimp. That's what I don't understand. I know they might get, but these were tiny. I wouldn't call them regular. I'll call them midgets.
Yeah, and maybe they had to switch supplier. Some suppliers or boats go down, and they got to switch a supplier just to fill that order. Because I know from say Port Richey on north, we'll get a lot more smaller shrimp than you guys would down there, just because we're in shallower water here. Don't have the deeper channels. We got a lot of grass flats. Don't have the variety that you would down south. So it's a possibility.
That happens in Pine Island around Boca Grande.
Mm-hmm.
Rolando says a lot of the times you go there and they're nothing but little. And over there, you can't buy, like you say, regulars or mediums. It's like $4 a dozen, and it's whatever they give you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say that. I mean, we don't do them by the dozen here. We do them by the 50s and 100s. So you kind of get away from having to worry about the dozen and making sure the dozen are within good size, because they'll just sit there and count, and you get a lot of extras, and a lot of the extras, unfortunately, are the small ones. But for the most part, they try to do as best as they can. Not downplaying anything, but I just wish if you ask for selects, you'd get a little bit better quality shrimp. But again, it just may be the way that it is here. I don't know.
I know in St. Pete, they do that. I think I forgot what it was, $12.50 or $15 for 50 shrimp or something like that.
Yeah. Or at least give, let us order, or at least get us, 30 good sized shrimp within the 100 to 200. We pay for 100, 150, and we'll pay a little extra for another extra 30 decent sized shrimp. Something. Because like I said, every once in a while you want that good one for that one last fish. You want to catch that client to hit that limit, and you don't have the shrimp to do it. So
I tell you, this last week, if you thought you were going to go fishing with shrimp, you weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you better be fishing with artificials or cut bait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had a couple times that way, and we had one where I called the night before, and not one bait store had them anywhere. And I had one place that was going out that night, and they said, just call me in the morning and I'll let you know. And I got up bright early, and sure enough, they had some. So was able to get them. But yeah, sometimes it happens where we've got nothing around here. So you're
What do
using
you,
plastics.
what do you do? They just use plastic? Well, of course,
Use
where you're at,
plastics, or hopefully they've got some frozen on reserve, or you've got some in your freezer from previous times. But most of the time, what I'm dumping out now is not worth freezing. So, you just kind of have to hope and pray and see what happens.
it's
So,
tough. How about if we get, you want to get Tony Franklin's fishing report in?
yeah, sounds
Here
good.
we go.
All right, this is Captain Tony Franklin back with this week's fishing report. Out on the water right now, just getting ready to go on a fishing charter. Here's my report for this week. We got a cold front coming in the next day or so, that's going to change things a little bit, get a little windy this afternoon. It's going to start being a little windy and cooler this week. This week we've been primarily fishing shrimp like we've been fishing the last 3 or 4 weeks. We're still fishing the residential canals, backwater creeks. That's where most of the action's been. There's been a little bit of action on the outside grass flats, but not much. Most of the action's back in the creeks. We're catching trout, spotted sea trout, silver trout. We're catching some small mangrove snapper. We're catching whiting, small jack crevalles. We are catching some smaller snook, as they don't really like to bite when this water's cooler, but back in the creeks where it's a little bit warmer, we are catching a few snook. We're catching quite a few redfish. Most of them are the smaller variety of redfish. They're right up under the mangroves on the higher tide. So we're catching quite a few of the medium to smaller redfish. Haven't really seen any bigger ones this week, but there's been plenty of action out on the water. And this week the weather has been fantastic, although it's going to cool down next week, and I suspect after the next week or so, it'll warm right back up again. The biggest problem with the pattern that we're having in the fishing is it gets cooler and it gets warmer. And these fish aren't really getting in their normal pattern and staying in their pattern in an area where they would stay when it would say be cooler. They're going back and forth. It'll warm up, they'll come back out of their spots, cooler, they'll go back in. We need it to either stay warmer or get cooler, stay cooler, so they'll stay put. So that's a good tip for this week. So there's plenty of action out there. Weather's been great. Get out there, do you some fishing, tight lines. I'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim just joined us. Hey, Jim. He's got an excellent report.
You
this
see
week.
that he showed up?
Yeah,
He's not showing up on mine yet.
yeah, he did. I saw his report and the fish he's got. He's got a good report this week. He's been nailing them out there.
All right.
Been doing
Then
good.
I got to get a hold of him then. We got to go out.
Yeah, he's got
sure.
the fish I've been looking for as well, but I'll let him talk about
Oh,
it
yeah.
before we
We'll
get
let
there.
him talk about it. Yeah. I don't want to take the winds out of his sails. So we
No, let him
have to
do
wait a
his
few
report
minutes
there.
before we do anything. And I see that Ken Burke is back. He's been traveling a lot on a lot of vacations. So we'll see what happens. And
Yeah.
I tell you what's got me scared about down here. You don't have it that bad. We all try to work with each other when we're going to be running tournaments so we don't get on top of each other.
Mhm.
And let me tell you, from what I can see, starting about from March all the way through almost mid-June, there's going to be a tournament in Tampa Bay every Friday, Saturdays, some on Thursdays now, and some on Mondays because all the Fridays are taken.
Right.
And you start looking at 35 to 50, 60 boats every time one of these things twice a week
Hmm.
inside the bay. It takes a toll on the fish. Now, this is just that tournament. Now, just think about the other people that normally
Yeah.
would fish. Okay. I mean, I think it's going to take a toll.
Mhm.
Eventually,
Yeah.
it's got to hurt our area. I'm telling you, I think it will.
I'm sure it does. I mean, the fish feel the pressure. They hear the boats running. I mean, it makes a big difference. I can tell you for a fact. Say during the week on the river, you have a little less traffic on the river. The bite on the river, especially in the wintertime, most boats are stuck in the river due to winds or tides or whatever else like that. And the traffic on the river during the week is a lot less, and your catching ratio is better. But when Friday turns around, Saturday, Sunday, there is so much traffic that the bite definitely dies, and those fish feel the pressure. So you're going to have to try to think of outside the box and try to find places where these fish don't hear all the boats running back and forth, the wave action, the pressure from the boats, because there's a big pressure wave that you push on any boat that goes by.
yeah.
And those fish feel it, they know it. And so they'll kind of, shy away from being in those spots that you normally catch them because they feel the pressure. And it's not just the fact that, there's a bunch of baits in the water or anything else. There's just so much activity. Everything a fish is geared to predators above, birds, dolphin, all that kind of stuff. They're colored to be protected from above. So they that's kind of what they do. They react to all the pressure. So
I mean, I honestly feel it because I noticed that. And the other thing is, it's not just the tournament people. It's and I'm guilty of that because I got about 5 of them, that I'm going to be running. But it's just that then you got all the locals, and I don't blame them. Hey, when I wasn't a captain, you go where there's fish, and Whidden Island, if you launch a Gandy, Whidden Island and Port Tampa are like magnets for fishing. Everybody's going to go there. Well, there used to be a lot of fish there.
Oh yeah, I know. I remember it. Yeah.
Every year there's a little less and a little less. And I think it's like you say, let's take Christmas Pass, for example. You used to go in Christmas Pass, there might not be anybody in there. Or you might be in there and another boat will come in real quietly, go over and get on the other side of you. During the summer, you go close to Christmas Pass and it's a flotilla in there. There must be 7 boats in an area that's good for maybe 1 or 2. You got 7. And of course, everybody's got the trolling motor. Everybody's making noise. And then I love the ones, God bless their heart, that you can hear them coming with music a mile away, and they got the bass on that stereo going. And you don't think that doesn't scare the fish? You better believe it does.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And they don't realize this.
I never understood. And, I don't have a radio on my boat. Every once in a while, I like to have some music, so I'll put my phone on or something like that. But it's usually most of the time when I'm scalloping or just out there for fun, I might listen to a little music, but it's just coming straight from my phone. I don't have any speakers in my boat. But it's a fishing boat. It's not a pleasure boat. But at the same time, I never understood people going out fishing and they're going by you blasting this radio out there, because in my head, when I'm going out into the outdoors, I don't want to hear noise. I'm trying to escape everything, escape the stress. To me, you're just bringing all that stress with you. And again, I'm a big music lover, love it to death. I listen to it every day, but
there's nothing like being out there in the morning, close to the
just want
mangroves.
silence.
And how many times I could hear some noise in the mangroves, and you start looking and you see a big old raccoon working his way through the mangroves. I mean, you see the birds, you see all this stuff. This is what makes it fun.
Yeah.
And music, you can listen to it on the way there, on the way home in your car, your truck, or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Or if it's not a day that you're fishing, if you go to party and go to Beer Camp Beach or something down here, hey, you want the music, that's fine. But when I'm fishing, I don't want music.
Right.
I want to hear what's going on. I want to hear where I can hear a fish pop or a mullet jump or something. That's just me. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, I get it. And, and I'm not downplaying anybody who likes to listen to it and all that kind of stuff. But when you're fishing and you're out in the mangroves or out in the places and you see a whole bunch of people, hey, just be courteous. That's all. Just be courteous. Just crank it down just a little bit, because, not everybody enjoys hearing your music.
Well, now let's get Jim Pace on there. Let's see what he calls.
Sounds good. Let's get here, Jim.
Hey guys, this is Jim with your Pasco County Fishing Report. First report of the new year, so happy new year to everybody. This week has been was a fun, productive week. Started off earlier this week, went offshore when the weather was calm and nice, decided to shoot off, see what I could do offshore. This is rare opportunities to be able to get out there in deep water. So I went out, we're about 40 to 50 feet. I was looking for hogfish. Didn't catch any large hogfish. They were, right at keeper size, but if they're not too big, I don't usually try and keep them. We got into a few of them though, so that was fun. Definitely just using shrimp on the bottom. Make sure you stay on the bottom if you're really trying to get through hogfish, and take a bunch of shrimp, because you're going to get a lot of grunts in the meantime. Porgies, grunts, small red grouper. We did hook into a really, really nice red grouper on light tackle while I was trying to catch a hogfish. He was almost a 28-inch red grouper, so he was extremely hard to get up on that light tackle. 20-pound leader, 15-pound braid. He was doing everything I could to get him up. We also got into some amberjack, some lessers and the graders. We ended up hooking a really large greater amberjack. It was a really fun fight. Took me quite a while to actually get him in. He was doing everything he could to spool me out. He ended up getting, I think he was right around 30 pounds. He maxed out my my grippers that have the weight on them, and those max out at 30. So he was all up 30 pounds, which, you know, that's a really good size, fun fish to catch. He ended up hitting on a, I think he was a live squirrel fish that we had thrown down, because I was trying to catch a Goliath. So other than that, we came back in, and next day we ended up getting off, staying inshore. The trout and sheephead bite are the two best bites right now. Trout bite is phenomenal. Big trout. You'll see a picture. I caught one that was, I don't even remember his measure. He's probably only like 23, 24, but he had a head on him. He was large. He actually jumped out the water a few times. I thought it was a snook at first, but he actually hit on a live pinfish. What I was doing was I was going into the mouth of these inlets, and as the tide was going in, I was allowing these pinfish to kind of free line into their strike zone, right into those deep little trough areas right in front. And as soon as they were getting there, these trout were sitting there just waiting for it. Three different spots we got into some nice trout. And then also the sheep's head bite. There's some big sheeps coming back in. That was all in North Hudson for all of this, up in that area. What I was doing for the sheep's head, fillers and shrimp, it actually didn't matter. They were hitting both fairly well. Me and the person we were with, it didn't matter what we chose, they were hitting it. I was using kind of a free line into a rocky, deeper point, and they were sitting there. And then also with the shrimp, we were sitting with just a split shot, just to get it down a little faster once the current was moving a little bit. But anywhere we pretty much stopped at the sheep's head were supposed to be docks, rock piles going around a corner of a canal, and then some deeper holes that a few of us know about that have rocks that hold sheep's head. They were there. So you can get out there and get yourself some nice sheep's head right now in our area. That's definitely something fun to get out there and bite. Everything as far as bait, cut pinfish, cut mullet for redfish. Did not catch a single snook. They got lockjaw. I can't get a hold of them. I can find them, but they just don't want to eat anything. And then of course on the sheep's head and the trout. The trout, well, like I said, was a pinfish that was having the best bite with that, and the sheep's head was fiddler crabs and shrimp. Just the standard way of catching sheep's head. It was super fun. We had a great time. There's some big ones out there, really some big ones. As far as this upcoming week, everybody knows the cold weather's coming again. I think Monday, Tuesday, it's going to be cold, and then it'll stable off high 60s, and then towards the end of the week, it's going to get really cold. So these fish are going to transition a little more. I don't think they're going to move too much from where they're at, but they definitely will change their attitudes and how they're gonna be striking. Everything's gonna have to slow down. So if you're using artificial, slow it down. If you're using shrimp, make sure that you're keeping it in the strike zone a long time. Don't pull it out. Just keep letting it sit. But other than that, I'm gonna try and get out again and see what I can do this week. Fight the weather a little bit, get some cold in me, and then I'll get back with you next week. Thank you. See ya.
Good job,
Thanks,
Jim.
Yeah, that two fish he's got there, the amberjack. I miss fishing for those. I did a lot of that in Pensacola,
Grief
and
donkeys.
oh, they get a hold of you, and it's just a
Hey,
fight,
two
and
of them,
it's
and
so
you've
fun.
had it.
Yeah.
Especially if they're big. By
Mhm.
the end of the second one, you're ready to take a break because they
Yeah.
don't quit.
No, they don't. And I had a spot there in Pensacola that had some big amberjack, and I hurt some backs on some clients of mine putting it down there because I drop it down because they were suspended, a lot of them, obviously, and I just knew exactly what zone they were in off my graph, and so I dropped that line down there for them and about handed off. About the time I handed off, it was on and dropped the clients to their knees, and they were hurting. So it was fun. I enjoyed doing that because you're in for a ride then.
I went out of Mexico Beach just for that hurricane hit one time. We were over this wreck, and let me tell you, the second one, all halfway through the fight, I'm about ready to give up. That
Mhm.
sucker wouldn't quit.
Yeah,
I mean, he just he had an attitude.
yeah,
He was wearing my attitude down. Let me tell you.
yeah, yeah.
But they are fun,
They
and I tell you, smoked amberjack is fantastic.
it is, it is.
Now, I don't
Yep.
like it any other way, but smoked, especially
Mhm.
if you make a smoked spread out of it, oh, on
Yeah, one
saltine
of my
crackers with a shot of Tabasco sauce.
uh-huh.
Woo.
Yeah, our one of our restaurants, our little tiki bar next to my launch area where I pick everybody up. It's called a tiki bar. They have a smoke spread of amberjack, and it's so delicious. It's just I love it. So, yeah, it's a fun fish, and I miss not being able to catch them. But it's been about 6 years since I've had one. It's been a long time.
Now,
So,
one of the things that I don't know about where you're at, I was expecting for the water quality to be a lot cleaner because of the weather, but maybe it hasn't gotten cold enough. Tampa Bay, normally the month of December, January, you got some pretty clean water,
mhm,
and it hasn't been that way this year.
yeah. It's
It's
it's been good for us. The lack of rain definitely contributes to, less muddy water. But no, we've got pretty much crystal clear water just about everywhere out there. The river stays what it is because of the hard mud bottoms. But for the most part, yeah, it's pretty clear here. We have no issues. But again, we haven't had rain, so nothing's been really stirred up. Um, and we really haven't had a whole lot of north winds to stir it up either. So it's relatively clear out here.
down here. I mean, normally you can see down 8, 10 feet of water this time of the year, and as
Mhm.
calm as it was this week, you really couldn't. It
No,
was, it just wasn't half of what it should have been.
yeah,
As the O'Donnell said, hooked it on the port side of the stern, landed it on the bow. He must have had a big amberjack.
yeah, yeah.
Did
So,
you ever wonder? I want to know how they do it. These pictures that you see, these kayakers landing a sailfish or landing this huge amberjack. I don't know how they can do it because I'll be honest with you. I mean, how do they do it? Are they that good? Because I have enough problems just sitting in a kayak and
mhm,
fighting a small fish. I have a, even if you're in a big boat, you get an amberjack. He wants to pull you over the side.
yeah.
How do you do that with a kayak?
Well, a buddy of mine, and I haven't talked to him in years, but he's with Hobie up there in Pensacola, and one of his specialties was actually catching sailfish and large tarpon out of his kayak off the beach. And one of the things is those pedals that they have for those kayaks are very, very strong, and they can kind of hold you and give that pressure that you need. Um, but I think that's the only way that's going to work because I've taken a kayak over there at Fort DeSoto when I go camping. I've taken it across the way and fished the mangroves, and I hook in, and I don't have any paddles with it. It's just your hand paddle. I don't have any foot pedals, and because it's a friend of mine's kayak, and I hooked into a redfish, and that thing took me into the mangroves. I couldn't control that fish, and it wasn't a big. It was a 20 inch redfish. It wasn't that big. it was taking me everywhere in that kayak. But I think that's the biggest key, is having those foot pedals and having that control to give resistance against those fish. But if you're in a kayak without those pedals, yeah, you're just
But
along for
still,
the
Mike,
ride.
I don't know, man. You get a 35, 40, 50-pound amberjack. It's not just, they want to go down.
Hmm.
So it's not, the foot pedal can help you from not being dragged around. But if that thing goes to your right, how in the
Yeah,
heck do you
well,
keep a balance with
you're
a big
you're kind
fish
of
like,
you're kind of moving your whole body with it. So yeah, and again, depending on the kayaks, some kayaks like the Hobie kayaks and those big ocean kayaks, they are designed with a better balance in them that they don't tip over as well. So yeah, um, I think it's up to the what type of kayak you have. It makes a big difference.
well, I can tell you from the honest at the bottom of my heart, I'm not a kayaker. I, I, I just don't feel balanced. We've done a couple of shows, and Holt, can tell you the whole time, I just felt uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Just it wasn't right. But why don't we
right.
let's get Jessica on there.
Sounds good.
Hey guys, Captain Jessica Honovic with the Ohukam Charters out of Chaskawiska, Florida. Let's talk a little fishing. So last week, fishing was fire. You could pull up to a spot and catch 10 to 15 reds. Really, really good numbers in black drum. A couple sheephead, and I am still catching some trout in the backcountry. So this week it got a little hot. And to me, the redfish weren't grouped together as nice. So with this week, it's going to get a little cool again. So hopefully that'll group them up better again. I have been fishing the incoming and outgoing. I haven't really seen much of a difference with that. I did catch a spinner shark this week, which was pretty cool to see. Didn't last too long, but that was pretty cool to see. Trout, 20 to 23 inches in the backcountry, which is pretty nice. Have been using shrimp. Did get a couple of mud minnows. Cut ladyfish for me was not getting anything nice. So I been using a split shot 5 or maybe a 7 with a 2-aught hook. So hopefully with this cold front coming in, it'll get a lot better. If you want to book and see beautiful Chaz, call 352-464-7309.
Thanks, Jessica.
Good job. Good job.
Yeah. Yeah, some of that background in one of her shots there, I would say I've been kind of keying in on as well. Some of that sawgrass and dark mud bottom seems to be holding a little bit more fish than what the backcountry mangroves, if you can't get back there because of the low tides. Yeah, that seems to be a very hot ticket right now, for me at least.
For years, we were fishing the Chaz in January. And then this year we moved it to March just to be different after 4 years. And of course, I moved it. Everything was okay. And then the boat show people decided to have the boat show that weekend. But we fished the marshes all the time. And I tell you, those guys, they have a lot of guts, more than me, because they're running those flat bottom boat jet drives, those 26-foot boats, and some of them are not jet drive. They come around these creeks, and you can see the rocks sticking out on each side of you, about 2 or 3 inches out of the water. And once in a while, you can hear them. But they take you back inside where all these reeds are at. And there's a couple of the ones that I love to go to. They were just like a little spring. You got reeds, and maybe it's 10 foot wide, 12 foot wide. But really, where you're running the boat is only right about 6 or 7, because on either side there's rocks. But when you get in there, it's like a perfectly round circle where the spring is. And all we would do is back up into the reeds on the leeward side of the reeds and drop the power poles. And you just cast it into the hole. And we would catch puppy drum, redfish, trout, mangrove snapper. And I mean, it was fun fishing. And even days that you could hear the wind going over your head. those reeds were like 8, 10 foot tall.
Yeah.
So when you got up against them, you were protected. I mean,
Mhm.
you didn't know how really windy it was until you got out of there and got back
Yeah.
on the river. And then you said, uh-oh, it is pretty,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've got a few spots like that where you just kind of tucked away from everything, kind of tucked away from the wind. Got that sawgrass around. I mean, it's pretty productive. Not every time. That definitely has to be specific and when you go, the conditions, but it can be a really good place to search. Because again, out there in the mangroves, you can still find them in those little pockets, those ponds that are back in the backwaters, because it's all protected, and that's the biggest key, especially when it's cold like this and they got north winds. Protection is the biggest key, and making sure that sun is in there beating it in, warming that water up. It'll get them active.
Well, let's get your fishing report in.
Sure.
Let's see what you got.
Good evening, Captain Mike Haynes out of Crystal River. The fishing has been pretty good recently. Trout are still being caught in the creeks with shrimp, jigging them, free lining them, a little pop and cork, but just a very, very slow pop on that. Nothing very aggressive. But the trout have been decent and consistent. That's the one bite I can say that has been consistent around here. They're going to still be in those creeks with this cold front coming in. They're not going to move too far. They may shut down the bite, and it may be a little more difficult to catch that bite. But the one thing I have found out is when the trout's bite slows down, when you're normally catching them on jigs, jigging around in soft plastics, or got a shrimp on a jig and you're just kind of popping around, finding a fish here or there. What I found out is slowing that presentation down as well. Sometimes they just want a little bit of a crawl, just kind of scooting across the bottom, and those fish will pick it up. One of the techniques I've been using is just freelining those shrimp. So I've got the tide coming in or coming out. I'm going to throw against the tide and then let it flow down to where I think these fish are. And a lot of times I'm picking up that bite doing just that, just letting that bait slowly flutter down with the tide. Because these fish, when these cold fronts come in, everything else like that, they're going to slow down. Metabolism is the big thing. Their metabolism slows down, their feeding activity slows down, so you need to slow down with your presentations. And that seemed to be the key in catching a little bit more trout this week, is just kind of slowing that presentation down for these fish to actually get it in front of their face where they're going to bite. They're really not in the chasing mood, so if you bring the food to them, you tend to get a little bit better bite on it. And including the redfish. The redfish are still back in the creeks. They're as far back as they can possibly get right now. I'm finding no redfish out on the outer islands, barely any mullet on the outer islands. You're going to have to go back into the mangroves, and you're going to have to time it correctly with the tides because of these extra low tides that we have during this year. So pay attention to the tides, make sure you got enough water to get back in there. But once you do, it seems to be pretty productive. You're looking for harder bottoms. You're looking for darker, muddier bottoms. And once you kind of find those, slow down. Use some of that cut ladyfish, cut pinfish, some mud minnows if you got them, or shrimp. And you're going to want to soak them. It's going to be a waiting game. It's going to be patience. Because I found out this past week for catching redfish, we'd have to soak those things 10, 20 minutes. And I mean, not move them, not shake them, nothing. Just let them sit. And once we did that, we seemed to get a better bite. Again, it's a slow bite. We might have only caught 1 or 2 fish an hour, but we actually caught fish. So that was the key, because redfish seem to be a little more difficult to find lately just because they're so far back in the backcountry, and getting that access to them. And that's the reason why there's not been a lot of redfish caught recently. You might catch 1 or 2 during the day and hey, you're doing good. So every once in a while you'll find some pockets, and we found a few pockets where you'll get, several different redfish, but usually they're going to be the smaller reds, or just undersized. And You might catch a whole bunch of those. The smaller redfish seem to feed better than the larger ones. But just slow your presentation, slow your bait, and go smaller on your baits. I know everybody loves to throw those big pieces of shrimp and everything else like that. Well, these fish, again, they're not very aggressive in this temperature change. They're going to want an easy meal. So slow down your presentation, make your bait sizes smaller. I would say if you're doing chunk bait, I would do half the size of what you normally do during the summer. And the shrimp, try to go for the smaller ones. A lot of times that seems to be the ticket on catching more fish, is slowing everything down, smaller baits. Sheep's head, they're not really in just yet. They're still in the back country. We went out offshore a couple of times. We found a few. Again, nothing big numbers, but they're just not out on the rocks just yet. We're still a little early. But probably within the next couple of weeks in February, you're going to start seeing a lot more reports on sheep's head. Grouper bite actually has been on fire. Now, it's been out a little bit, anywhere between the 12 to 15 foot range. So you've got to go out a little bit to find them. But the grouper bite has just been insane lately. Got a friend of mine who's just catching some really, really big hogs and catching them on soft plastics. So, if you want to get some grouper out there, they are definitely coming into the shallower rocks. You might have to go 10, 12 miles out, but around Crystal River, that's not too far to find them. Mangrove snapper, catch a lot of mangrove snapper in the river right now. A lot of them are small. You're going to have to go through quite a number of them, unless you know a few places where you got some bigger ones, but the mangrove snapper are definitely kind of pushed into the river. Along with this week with the cold front, there's going to be a lot more fish moving into the river. Black drum, we've caught a few black drum. They'll be moving in. The trout will definitely move back into the river. Probably catch some decent ones in the river, because we've got 3 cold fronts coming in over this next week, and it's just going to change everything drastically. So the river, I think, will catch on fire and be better fishing. It's been kind of off and on here and there, and there's a lot of boats in the river just because of the winds, the fog that we've had. So the river's gotten a lot of pressure, but I think it's going to increase just a little bit due to this colder weather coming in. But I think that's about it. We'll see you next week. This is Captain Mike Haynes, Fishbones Charters out of Crystal River, Florida.
Good job, Mike.
Yeah. Well, after
right.
playing that back, I will have to say, apologize. I've got a little sinus thing issue lately, and I could barely talk. I think I redid that report like 10 times before it finally came out right, without having to clear my throat or anything else. And I had a sinus headache, so my thought process was a little slow.
It's all right. It's all right. And listen, you really need to send me what you want to do your talk on for the boat show.
Okay.
That they got, because I really need to get that into them next week.
Okay. I'll do it. No worries.
And we'll see what happens. And I guess the show, we're done, everybody.
Yeah.
Another time. And sorry I wasn't here last week, and we're going to try to bring Ron on once in a while as the third guy, so we can bounce a bunch of stuff together, because he's really into fishing. He really likes fishing too. So he's not a captain. He's just a hardworking guy, but he loves to fish. So hey, everybody, God bless you. Tight lines. Be safe, and we'll see you next week.
Yep.
Thank you, Mike.
See you next week. Thanks,
Take care.
guys.
Goodbye.